Finally! NSL Kage, brother, your prayers are finally being answered. We are finally doing Xiaoli both offensive and defensive. I'm just so psyched to talk about this, I'm ready to jump right in, though real quick, to address the Kengan Technique tier list follow-up, I actually don't know if we hit the goal in time. I got so busy making my last gaming video, I only remembered to check 10 days after uploading where we had hit the goal, so because I don't actually know, I'll make part 2 for the tier list next. Alright, let's fucking go! So let's relax and talk relaxation. First, what does the wiki have to say? Defensive Xiao-Lee produces hyposthenia, which makes it look like the user lost body mass, but also relaxed the body. It is like the user absorbs the attacker's whole body weight. The ultimate form of hyposthenia can unleash a punch that comes from extreme relaxation. The opposite version of it, known as offensive Xiao-Lee, allows a person to put their entire body weight into their blows. With this technique, even a punch from a weak person can become amazingly powerful. Even outside of fighting and martial arts, relaxation is used in modern sports when explosive power is needed. The relaxation of the muscles right before the moment of impact is a critical key factor for good results. Kakukayo used this technique during his fight with Yujiro Hanma, and his withered fists could destroy a stone wall. He injured Yujiro Hanma, forcing him to protect himself and slightly dominate him for a short while. However, like in the case of defensive Xiao-Lee, the fighter cannot use offensive Xiao-Lee if they get thrown or slammed into a wall or the ground due to the impact dispersing. Another drawback is that pulling out a single strand of hair can bring the fighter's instincts back and cause their body to momentarily react. Defensive Xiao-Lee is capable of nullifying the power of an offensive Xiao-Lee based attack, as Yujiro Hanma was able to resist Kakukayo's Xiao-Lee enhanced punches once he had copied the technique. It is possible, however, that rather than being a direct counter, whoever has the greater mastery of the technique would be the victor in a clash between offensive and defensive Xiao-Lee. For defensive Xiao-Lee is a form of bodily control that allows the user to completely relax their body to a feather-like state, allowing them to present zero resistance to oncoming blows. It also produces hyposthenia, which allows the user to absorb all their attacker's body weight. With that, the user can't take damage from punches, kicks, or slashes, as the attack would meet no resistance from the Xiao-Lee user's body, and the user would simply flow with the attack. It's like how a stiff and sturdy tree can be blown down by strong wind, but that same wind cannot harm a flimsy and flexible blade of grass. Kakukayo is the best user of this technique. He absorbs the impact of attacks so perfectly that even full-force punches from Yujiro Hanma, a man whose almighty strength has been compared to an entire nation's modern military, couldn't damage him, or at least nothing worse than giving him a bloody nose. Yujiro also learned how to do this technique with ease and used it during his fight with Kaku. In the 4th series of the manga, Retsukayo also mastered this skill, but he couldn't protect himself against Miyamoto Musashi. Defensive Xiao-Lee does, however, possess flaws. When a person is about to take a hit, they have the natural instinct to stiffen up and fortify themselves so as to withstand the blow, even though this actually makes the situation worse for them. It's a split-second decision that the brain makes automatically. Because of this, Xiao-Lee is incredibly difficult to master. Some people train for decades and still never come close to being able to go against their instincts. Another flaw is how one is able to catch a defensive Xiao-Lee user off guard. The defensive Xiao-Lee user's natural instinct to stiffen up before a blow lands may overpower their training, causing them to take significant damage. An example of this is when Yujiro Hanma pulled out one of Kakukayo's hairs to trigger his reflexes, and provide Yujiro with the opportunity to do damage. Defensive Xiao-Lee is also weak against throws and being slammed against surfaces. The user can also use this ability of ultimate relaxation in another way, by using that force against his opponent. This is known as offensive Xiao-Lee. That's the explanation of what we're told and what we see in the manga, but let's get a little more in depth. Relaxation is a major aspect of both Chinese martial arts and martial arts on the whole, with even famous Shaolin monks like Shi Hengyi placing a great emphasis on Wu Song, or relaxation methods like Shou Song to relax the hands, Xiang Song to relax the chest, Fu Song to relax the waist, Tun Song to relax the cheeks, and Tui Song to relax the legs for a full body relaxation. With entire Chinese arts dedicated to the mastery of the soft style of martial arts that rely on physical and mental relaxation as a core concept, like the mainly grappling art Tai Chi, and arts that use the balance between relaxation and tension, between soft style and hard style, to give themselves a springiness that provides solid structure for attacking and defending, while also providing agility, range of motion, and reduced stamina usage like the majority striking style of Xing and its San-Ti-Shi, or three-body posture. The range and focus of how much relaxation is used and to what degree varies greatly even within Kung Fu alone, let alone other martial arts, but it's certainly ever present in all of Chinese martial arts with no exceptions. Xiao-Lee, or the power of disappearance, can take advantage of and can utilize the whole breadth and range of focus of relaxation and tension-based Chinese martial arts. Users of Xiao-Lee seem to have a complete mastery of muscle relaxation, Qigong, or the art of controlling your breathing to help both regulate your oxygen flow to your muscles at an optimal rate, as well as to foster calmness of the mind and synchronicity between the body and mind by creating a tempo for your body to move to or a rhythm to fight to, and of course, mental relaxation, which we see in arts like the modern, slowed down movements of meditative Tai Chi that focuses on internal energy and achieving a sense of inner calm through the use of a gentle, connected pattern of rhythmic movements. That said, while mastering Xiao-Lee can be boiled down to a mastery of those three aspects of relaxation, it certainly isn't easy. Yujiro Hanma, with it being a near impossibility that he was taught the technique for obvious reasons, either figured out Xiao-Lee through sheer martial and anatomical knowledge or copied it after seeing Kaku use it once. But of course, Yujiro, being one of the most skilled martial artists in all fiction, is an exceptional outlier and thus shouldn't be looked to in figuring out how difficult the principle is to master. Instead, let's look to Retsu and Kaku. For Retsu, it took him a year and change of training with Kaku to gain a strong mastery of defensive Xiao-Lee or the defensive power of disappearance. Retsu is, of course, an unparalleled martial artist in terms of talent. His sheer, unrivaled ability to master martial arts is so great, by his 30s, he was able to completely master Chinese martial arts. Being described as the embodiment of Chinese martial arts, with Chinese martial arts being 4,000 years old, with hundreds of substyles, thousands of different schools of substyles, and millions of different principles on how to perform each technique and movement. And yet, with a year and a half of instruction from somebody that already mastered Xiao-Lee to its fullest, Retsu had only gained a strong mastery of half of the complete Xiao-Lee, the defensive half. For an even more compelling example of how difficult it is to master Xiao-Lee, let's look at the nearly 150-year-old Kaku Kaio. Kaku, so far as we know, unlike Retsu, has no special talent or aptitude for martial arts. Rather, he started his life as a meathead and only later became a martial artist. Yet through hard work and dedication, after 50,000 days of training, Kaku mastered both offensive and defensive Xiao-Lee to the most impressive point we've seen, with his defensive Xiao-Lee clearly outstripping Retsu's own. So it took an average man, by all accounts, 50,000 days to master the concept of Xiao-Lee. 50,000 days, or over 135 years. Because of translation issues I'm sure everyone is aware of for this part of the manga, I don't know if that number is accurate, but at the very least, from young Kaku looking to be in his 20s or 30s, to old Kaku being nearly 150 years old, it's a safe bet to say that it took him at least 100 years, if not 120. Now, there may be a temptation to say, well, Kaku's been training Chinese martial arts for like 100 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's been focusing on training Xiao-Lee specifically. But the way Kaku speaks about Xiao-Lee seems to imply that Xiao-Lee is the natural conclusion to the pursuit of mastery over Chinese martial arts. Everything done in every Taolu, of every school, of every substyle, of every style will, or at least should, eventually culminate into Xiao-Lee if mastered, kinda like an all roads lead to Mecha deal. From there, one can focus specifically on mastering Xiao-Lee, but a mastery of Chinese martial arts as an idea or a concept is almost a prerequisite that leads to an understanding and ability to use Xiao-Lee. Even the most basic Taolu of the most basic Kung Fu, the Zhenzong of Qigong, or the standing like a tree form of Qigong, is a stance that trains the fundamentals of proper breathing, building internal stamina, and strengthens the body's ability to maintain itself, all of which are essential to maintain and strengthen one's Chinese martial arts, ergo paving the path that leads to the summit of the Kung Fu mountain that is Xiao-Lee. And here we see Retsu not only does Zhuang, but he does so persistently and religiously. Things that seem more so geared to health benefits, like Song Yao or relaxation of the waist, are actually intrinsically tied to the progression of one's martial ability, understanding, and strength, which is why Kaku has lived for so long. His mastery of Chinese martial arts concepts is so strong and so well practiced that the effect of his mastery has taken physical form in his longevity of 150 years. Like literally, his crusty-ass face is a testament to the depth of his kung fu power. Retsu's base style, Byaku Renji Shaolin Kung Fu, is a strong style to start the path from as it very heavily deals with the balance of soft styles, hard styles, northern upright kicking styles, and southern deep boxing styles, basically being a mixed martial arts of Chinese Kung Fu similar to modern Chinese kickboxing Sanda, but what about Kaku? What was Kaku's base style, and how conducive was it to expanding into all of the rest of Chinese martial arts and then mastering them to learn Xiao-Lee? Well, if I had to venture a guess based on his body transformation, I'd say Tai Chi, which focuses almost exclusively on soft style, and has a massive emphasis on relaxing the body, which would be a reasonable assumption given Kaku's loss of muscle mass without losing muscle toning and definition, and the Taolu we see him doing aligns with Tai Chi movements, but ultimately, it doesn't matter. If it were Tai Chi, that would explain why, in teaching Retsu, it was harder for him to teach offensive Xiao-Lee, as it seems more strike-based in application, where Tai Chi is more so about grappling and mitigating the reception of attacks, which more closely aligns with defensive Xiao-Lee, but practically speaking, Kaku rightfully seemed more focused on general concepts and ideas that persisted across all of Chinese martial arts. This broad view of hard and soft styles allowed him to master the core principles like relaxation, tension, and timing, rather than worrying about mastering millions of specific techniques and how to use them or growing his physical abilities through strength and speed. These ideas of course extend beyond Chinese martial arts, like Subak Do and its Shin Chook relaxation tension training, and Mupal Dan Kyum's exercises to train Neigong, the internal energies like breathing, balance, weight shifting, kinetic chaining, stuff like that, and Wai Gong, the external energies like what part of the body you strike with, positioning and footwork in the stand-up, where you grip a person, or what position you take in ground grappling, but at their core, they are born from and the essence of Chinese martial arts, their contribution to the evolution of martial arts the world round. Even in the examples I just gave, the Neigong training from Subak Do was reformulated from a Chinese set of breathing exercises called the Eight Brocade of Silk. From all of Kung Fu, these ideas of soft and hard, or internal and external, focused into external focused and hard-leaning substyles like Wing Chun, and internal focused and soft-leaning styles like Tai Chi 700 to 1500 years ago, which then spread to weapon-using arts like the Japanese art of the Bo Kyudo in the 12th century, the Japanese cousin of Tai Chi Aikido in the 14th century, to the rougher, tougher younger brother of Aikido and cousin of Chinese Shuaijiao Judo in 1882, to Judo's ground-fighting focused brother and Ditang Quan adjacent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the 1920s, to the advent of modern Kung Fu as Wushu in the 1930s, to Taekwondo in the 1940s, stemming from Taekyon and Tang Soo Do, with Tang Soo Do coming from Japanese karate, which in turn comes from Okinawan karate, which was based on Chinese monk fist boxing, all the way back to the return to original Kung Fu as best we can in modern time, considering all the knowledge we lost due to the communist hostility to the Shaolin monks and burning down the temples with Sanda in the 1950s. The core ideas of Kung Fu exist in hundreds if not all styles today. But to master Xiao-Lee isn't to master Wing Chun, or Tai Chi, or any of those martial arts, it's to master the start, the original Kung Fu itself. So what about Xiao-Lee in real life? Well, the concept of the power of relaxation in both offense and defense is just as real as it is in Baki. And while of course everything in Baki is cranked up to comic book levels, the power of extreme mastery over relaxation is still incredible in real life as well. For concepts that make use of offensive Xiao-Lee in real life, look no further than Fa Jing, the ability to exert a quick burst of internal energy. That kinda sounds mystical when you say it like that because of the connotation of words like internal energy, but what it's referring to, in more layman practical terms, is just the snapping of your muscles, shifting weight, and stiffening your joints all simultaneously for an increase of power output. Being that Kung Fu is the oldest codified system of martial arts in the world, it's not a stretch to posit that Xiao-Lee is the first conceptual technique in the world to make use of the power of relaxation, and so with that assertion comes an interesting revelation. Xiao-Lee is the concept that makes the Sun-Kei work, its improved version the Mu Sun-Kei, and interestingly enough, the cockroach tackle. The keen-eared listeners among you will have probably noticed by now that Fa Jing, increasing your power by snapping your muscles from relaxed to tense in a single quick moment, while shifting your weight toward your opponent and stiffening your joints enough to provide some rigidity, sounds awfully familiar to concepts discussed in the cockroach tackle video. Well, that's because Xiao-Lee is basically the source of the cockroach tackle's power, Fa Jing. Baki is shown to be a master of Kung Fu, so it is possible that Fa Jing was what he used to replicate a cockroach. But as Fa Jing has expanded to become ubiquitous in the martial arts world, he might have just used the concept without considering it specifically a Chinese martial art idea, but that is, as far as I know, its true origin. I guess it's worth noting that there's a strong possibility that Baki invented the cockroach tackle based in ideas from Chinese martial arts, as it seems to share the same base idea as his dinosaur styles, which come from the Kung Fu idea of imitating an animal to fight, and it uses Fa Jing, an originally Chinese Kung Fu idea. A martial art in real life that's a big user of the idea of Xiao-Lee is one called the Supreme Ultimate Fist, which deals primarily with tension and relaxation in the form of yin and yang, and in a sort of give and take way that replicates offensive and defensive Xiao-Lee. It also deals with circular movements, which are exemplified in almost all of Kaku and Retsu's defensive Xiao-Lee movements. If you haven't figured it out by now, the name of the Supreme Ultimate Fist in its native tongue is its Tai Chi. It's literally just Tai Chi Chuan. If you, in real life, want to learn how to use softness to generate power and learn the skills and timing needed for offensive and defensive Xiao-Lee, do some form of Tai Chi. It can be meditative or health-based, and then you take that to a Sifu sensei coach or instructor that teaches fighting, and politely ask them to help you to apply those concepts and techniques to combat, or you can do a combat style of Tai Chi Quan and then find an instructor to help you train and spar those skills. Tai Chi can teach you Tui Shou, or push hands, which is an exercise in grappling as well as balance, relaxation, and body manipulation, all vital aspects of the overarching idea of Xiao-Lee. Any Neijia-based system like Tai Chi, Xing or Bahk can at least teach you Fang Song, or relaxation, if you want to focus and sharpen the basic idea of relaxing in combat, which is honestly probably the hardest part. From there, you should focus on Gang and Ro, or rigid soft, and Ying and Ruan, or hard and soft. Those concepts bleed into practical application of Xiao-Lee, like Yi Ro Ke Gang, or use soft to overcome hard, and Yi Ro Z Gang, or use soft to control hard. That right there? That's your defensive Xiao-Lee. The idea of the back and forth of absorbing force and exerting force with mindful movements, breathing, and focus in a constant flow with good posture is Tai Chi Quan, and to do these things, you need Xiao-Lee. Hey, I mean, if nothing else, you'll improve your mental and physical health, improve your energy, improve your circulation, improve your balance and coordination, improve your flexibility, and reduce your stress. Xiao-Lee is also present in hard styles like Wing Chun as well, specifically in its parrying, positioning, and striking so integrally that it can be difficult for someone to properly perform the movements of the martial art without the ability to properly relax. If you don't want to look to traditional martial arts, since I know some people are unfortunately close-minded about traditional martial arts being practically effective, even pro combat sports fighters consider throwing a strike while relaxed and then tensing up immediately before impact, or the idea behind offensive Xiao-Lee, to be one of the top 5 most fundamental things to know and master. Even the common consensus is essentially tense up to explode into an attack, relax your body to effectively transfer power and weight, and then contract your muscles on the moment of impact to create a line of power from your back foot to your arm, so literally offensive Xiao-Lee. In scientific terms, offensive Xiao-Lee can be broken down into 3 simple steps. First, a rapid but short muscle contraction initiates the most violent movement possible. Next, muscle relaxation causes the arm or thigh to gain speed and range of motion without hindrance from antagonistic muscles. biceps and upper back muscles that slow down a punch, or hamstrings and gluteals that slow down a kick. And finally, contracting the muscle again just before impact produces the critical force that will do the most possible damage. Offensive Xiao-Lee is all about using your mass and moving it through relaxed and interconnected joint rotation to produce penetrating force that grows even stronger with the added acceleration. While defensive Xiao-Lee is the easier of the two to master, with it only requiring one's relaxation to avoid being damaged by a hit, hence Retsu's ability to grasp it so easily, offensive Xiao-Lee is the one that most precisely requires specific timing and intimate knowledge of relaxation and tension, specific movements like not moving your punches from your shoulder, or that you need to inject your punch by moving from the waist and driving from your shoulder to the elbow to the wrist, and then torquing the wrist, also known as punching from the waist. The relaxation makes the strike faster, and tensing it to make it solid makes it stronger. But understanding that and doing it based on that baseline understanding, just like any old martial art, and mastering that and taking your first steps to Xiao-Lee are two very different things. Even just the basics of Xiao-Lee are one of the most crucial skills you'll need in any martial art, so it's reasonable that even mastering the basics is difficult, but the difference between the basics and mastery is over 100 years of training. Even outside of martial arts, the balance between relaxation and tension applies to all kinds of sports like sprinting and vaulting and so on, each of which require some understanding of Xiao-Lee. As for defensive Xiao-Lee, whether you're falling, like the baby and the office worker mentioned in Baki, you get into a car accident, or even just taking a hit, relaxing your body and moving with the impact is the best way to disperse the impact and mitigate the damage. That's not to say that tensing against impact and being rigid isn't just as equally valid a way to reduce damage as well, as I've seen some Nakmoi say they tense up and block, or get rigid and just shift out of the way if possible. And I've read some articles that say bracing for impact in a car accident by tensing up helps to prevent things like torn muscles, whiplash, etc., so I suppose it's a matter of to each their own. With Xiao-Lee, it's much more difficult to master, but can be much more effective when mastered. Whereas with tensing up, it's easier to do and master, but there's only so much a tree can do in the face of a gale force wind as opposed to a blade of grass. There's also the matter of pain. The worst pain will be experienced by the guy that relaxes and uses Xiao-Lee, but hasn't gotten the timing or relaxation mastered, so he's taking the full, unmitigated brunt of that strike. Next is the tensed up guy, who's blocking the most of it with sheer muscle, but the strike will have some effect. The least painful way should be the mastered Xiao-Lee, which should help you to eat some pretty monstrous hits with little effect in theory, especially if it's the most recommended way to deal with a car accident. Well, that's the long and short of it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's been a long time coming. Again, special thanks to NSL Kage for sticking out this ridiculously long wait. I hope it was at least somewhat worth it. I'm gonna plug NSL in the description for anyone that wants to check out some awesome Baki MMVs, and I'll send out a community post later for his most recent vid, which is a banger that everyone should see. Alright folks, I've been Red Fox, the gentlest YouTuber in the world, and this has been Combat Clarification Grappler Baki Techniques Explained. 70 likes within 1 week of this going live, and you guys get Combat Clarification Grappler Baki Styles Explained Japanese Jujutsu after the Kengan Technique Tier List Part 2 coming soon, so be on the lookout. Peace.